By means of these meritorious deeds, may I never join with the foolish, may I join always with the wise, until the time I attain Nibbana. May the suffering be free from suffering, may the fear-struck be free from fear, may the grieving be free from grief, so too may all beings be. From the highest realm of existence to the lowest, may all beings arisen in these realms, with form and without form, with perception and without perception, be released from all suffering and attain to perfect peace. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay, friends, now we want to continue our talks on right understanding. As I mentioned, I base my talks on Sammaditthi Sutta that Venerable Sariputta taught. You can find it in Majjhima Nikaya, Sutta number 9. He explained Samma right understanding or right view 16 ways. We are on the 9th, that is feeling. Sammaditthi Sutta combined dependent origination with the Four Noble Truths. You have heard under knowledge of Four Noble Truths is right understanding. Dukkha Jnanam and Dukkha Samudaya Jnanam and so forth. And when we understand dependent origination, then we understand right, we have right understanding. So Venerable Sariputta combined these two and made into one. And that's why we have 16 ways of explaining right understanding. So we are on number 9, the feeling. I gave a short talk last week on feeling, and today I want to continue it and how we can understand feeling and how we can use it for our meditation. Before that, I want to mention that in the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, one whole section, one foundation of 4 is feeling, Vedana Anupassana. There we heard, where we try to practice, as the discourse recommends, when the pleasant feeling arises, be mindful of that it is pleasant feeling. You may hear the Pali and Sinhalese, Sukhang Vedanang Vediyamano, Sukhang Vedanang Vediyamiti Pajanati. When the pleasant feeling arises, the meditator knows that it is pleasant feeling. But it is better for us not to say I. We want to eliminate I. I is the product of greed and ignorance. When greed and ignorance come together, I arises. My arises. Me arises. So we want to eliminate greed and ignorance from this practice, and therefore we become aware of the pleasantness of pleasant feeling when it arises. not before nor after. As it arises, we become mindful of pleasantness, of pleasant feeling. When painful feeling arises, we become mindful of painfulness or the painful feeling. Don't say, I have pain, I have pain. Just be mindful of painfulness or pain in the pain. Be mindful of pain in the pain. When neither pleasant nor unpleasant feeling arises, we become mindful of that state. Normally we all are, or most of the time are in that feeling, neither pleasant nor unpleasant feeling. Since we are not mindful, we ignore it. Therefore we are ignorant of neither pleasant nor unpleasant feeling. Whenever pleasantness or pain disappear, what exists is neither pleasant nor unpleasant feeling. And we become aware of. When pleasant feeling disappears, when pleasant feeling appears, be mindful of it. It is not going to stay, it is impermanent. Therefore it slowly vanishes from our experience. Then we are in the neutral feeling, neither pleasant nor unpleasant feeling. We become aware of it, we acknowledge it, we stay in that. And then pain arises. The neither pleasant nor unpleasant feeling disappears, and pain arises. Become mindful of that. When pain disappears, again neither pleasant nor unpleasant feeling arises. Become aware of it. And then pleasant feeling arises. Neither pleasant nor unpleasant feeling disappears. That is how we practice this feeling in mindfulness practice. Then there are other series of feelings. They are called samisa or niramisa. Samisa means the feeling, pleasant feeling with desire. Niramisa means pleasant feeling without desire. When the feeling without desire arises, we become mindful of that. And then feeling, neither pleasant nor unpleasant feeling arises without ignorance, we become mindful of it. That is called neither pleasant nor unpleasant niramisa adukha masuka. Niramisa adukha. There amisa is ignorance. Amisa is things that nourishes something. This feeling will not be nourished by ignorance. Rather, it is nourished by wisdom, letting go or understanding. It is temporary. When this feeling fades away as naturally as it is impermanent, again painful feeling arises without anger or resentment. How is that? Let me explain a little bit all these three Niramisa Sukha, Adukkama Sukha and Dukkha. You experience pleasure not through seeing objects, hearing sound, smelling, tasting, touching, and so forth. Not through these senses, but inwardly the mind becomes calm, relaxed and peaceful. That state you experience as a pleasure. Surely peace is a pleasure. Peace is happiness. It doesn't have any external objects. No greed. Greed arises because of external objects and internal senses. When they come together, greed can arise, and all other defilements can arise. In this section we have another part to explain, but before that I want to mention this. So this peaceful feeling inwardly arising is without samisa, without supportive factor to arouse our greed. No factor arise supports it. These are called pacchaya. Pacchaya means conditions. No conditions is there to make this peace from outside. This is inside. We have then neutral feeling. The pleasant feeling arises inside by seeing that everything is rising, falling, rising, falling, rising, falling, rising, falling. The greed does not arise with ignorance to hold on to this rising and falling. When thought of holding combined, thought of holding to something arises because of ignorance of impermanence. The mind can notice ignorance covers, blocks our eyes from seeing impermanence. When we don't see impermanence, when the experience is pleasant, greed, the thought can arise to hold on to pleasant feeling. Greedy thought. You don't see that happening, then you are very delightful. That is niramisa sukha. The happiness without greed to nourish our happiness. Seeing the truth, you have peace. Similarly, when neither pleasant nor unpleasant feeling arises, the ignorance does not interfere to confuse the mind. Because the mind, you are mindful, in the mindful state you can see everything is rising and falling, rising and falling, rising and falling, rising and falling. There is nothing to excite. Nothing to excite. And everything is the same. Then arises equanimous feeling. that you may experience in meditation as neither pleasant nor unpleasant feeling. When you have, painful feeling, what is that pain? Without anger or resentment, that is the pain. With your pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, you saw everything is rising and falling, rising and falling, rising and falling. You cultivate your trust in yourself, trust in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. You diligently practice, and yet you have not attained liberation, not even the stream entry. But others have attained those states. You have heard. You have heard so and so attained such and such a state, stream entry, one street and so on. You are doing the same thing, same practice, but you are in the same place. You are stuck you are in a plateau, stuck in somewhere. That mental state is called pain. Niramisa dukkha. Niramisa dukkha. Pain that you experience for not gaining higher states of liberation. So these are all temporary things. And in meditation, even this practice itself is enough for you to gain total liberation. So, one day Venerable Sariputta heard that Anatha Pindika, the most benevolent, generous person, was sick. So Venerable Sariputta went to him and he said to him, "Householder, you should train thus. I will not cling to feelings born of eye contact." That is where we cling to. Don't cling to them. You will not cling to feeling born of ear contact. You will not cling to feeling born of nose contact. You will not cling to feeling born of tongue contact. You will not cling to feeling born of body contact. You will not cling to feeling born of mind contact. Which feeling we try to cling to? Feeling, pleasant feeling. Pleasant feeling can arise through the eye. When pleasant object comes to our mind through the eyes, pleasant feeling arises. And if we keep looking at that object, we reinforce that pleasant feeling. As we are reinforcing that pleasant feeling, thought of clinging arises. Thought of clinging arises. You cannot cling to anything. But the thought arises into your mind not knowing what you experience is impermanent. You don't know it.
It's pretty hot,
Clinging
isn't
also
it?
arises very naturally.
Because I guess the temperature outside dropped, so yeah.
And then we
Okay.
think we cling.
Oh,
We so talk, we cling. Upadana. We don't cling. We cannot cling. Clinging is a thought. We hang on to that thought. So, whenever Sariputta asked Anathapindika, don't cling to that thought of clinging. The pleasant feeling that arises through the ear is pleasant. Thought arises of clinging to it, you have to want to hear it again and again and again and again. Listen to a very pleasing music, song. You not only want to repeat it, but you want to see the singer, the place. You want to listen to it tomorrow, day after tomorrow. Even in dream, you want to listen to it. Every time you wish to listen to it, you try to cling to it. If one moment you think that this is impermanent, you don't try to cling. So he asks Anathapindika not to cling to any of these things. I mentioned only two. You can use the other four senses as well. Now this is how we use the feeling as a subject of meditation. So Buddha said it several times in places like the Indriya Bhavana Sutta and so many places. And also feeling can cause karma. Sometimes you might wonder how feeling can cause karma. If you feel the present feeling, you understand it is impermanent, there isn't no holding to it. It is no, there is nothing to delight in it. If you feel painful feeling, you understand it is impermanent. There's nothing to hold on to it. If there is delight in it, then if you feel neither pleasant nor unpleasant feeling, you understand it as it is impermanent. There's no holding on to it. There's nothing to hold on to it. It appears and disappears. Then what happened? Buddha said, if he feels pleasant feeling, he feels it detached. When you try to hold on to pleasant feeling, as you know there is nothing to hold on to it, then the mind naturally withdraws from the thought of clinging. Then it becomes detached. When you see there is nothing to hold on to it, you don't attempt to hold on to it because you know that there is nothing. Then you become detached from that feeling. If you all experience unpleasant feeling, there is nothing to reject. So that you don't cling to the thought of rejecting. Buddha said, when feeling arises, if the pleasant, then we try to cling to it. Why we try to cling to it then? Any feeling? Is because we don't see that there is nothing to cling to it. And then as soon as we saw that, the mind detaches from that thought. As I said, the attachment, clinging is a thought. As that mind next moment sees there is nothing to cling to it, that thought of attachment will not arise, mind will withdraw. Just like when you bring a chicken feather close to fire, the feather will withdraw and turn back, roll back. It doesn't stay and go to the fire. Similarly, the mind, when it sees things are changing, nothing to hold on to anything, that mind will withdraw from that thought. Mind will withdraw from the thought, not from the object, but from the thought. Objects are there. Even when we attain liberation, objects are there. And when we have this understanding, this right understanding, when we look at the object with this understanding, our mind does not try to arouse the thought of clinging, and that very moment mind withdraws from that thought from the mind, from thought of arousing. So, therefore, in mindfulness of feeling meditation, we try to understand this, how it happens. There is another part of this that Buddha said you can find it in Samyutta Nikaya. I don't have much time, but I try to start this with. He said, Ananda, when there is the body, because of bodily volition, pleasure and pain arise internally. Now, this is how karma arises. When there is a body, because of the bodily volition, what is bodily volition? Volition is the thought. When there is a body, we think this is beautiful, permanent, young, healthy, and so on. We build up all kind of thoughts about the body. Then these are called bodily. Thought arises from the body. Bodily volition arises. What volition? Bodily pleasant volition arises. Or bodily painful volition arises. This volition, this will, this is called sankhara. Sankhara arises from the body, is in the mind. It is called feeling and perception. Chitta Sankara, feeling Vedana Sanya, is the mental conditioner. Feeling and perception is mental conditioner. When this mental conditioner arises, that conditions our thought of greed, hatred, or delusion. So I will continue this part next time, but today I just started, and I will take the whole section and take one by one in more detail next Saturday. Now I think I have to stop here, and my time is up. So please keep this in mind and form your questions for tomorrow. And this is getting more and more subtle and deep, arousing our understanding. So Venerable Sariputta was trying to bring out piece by piece, little by little, opening our mind to understanding. And therefore, we have to think, question, to improve our understanding. Okay, now friends, let me wish all those who are suffering from COVID-19 be free from that suffering and liberate themselves from this disease and any other, and return to their normal, regular life and practice Dhamma and liberate from samsaric suffering. And all those who have lost their loved ones, some people lost their mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, all over the world, untimely, and they are all grief-stricken. May they be free from that grief, understand the Dhamma, and liberate from that grief and from samsara. Those doctors and very compassionate doctors and nurses who dedicate their life, sacrifice their comfort, take risks in taking care of these people, may they continue their compassionate service for the benefit of all living beings. And those people who generously support all this may continue their support and be free from suffering and attain liberation from samsara, not only the life, but from samsara. May all the leaders who have taken very compassionate, far-sighted leadership to help the world during this very unfortunate situation, may they continue their leadership and live long in good health and attain liberation. Overall, friends, you all are supporting quietly, silently, diligently all these beings to be free from suffering and liberation from samsaric suffering. And may you all be free from suffering and liberate from samsara and attain enlightenment in this life. Thank you for supporting me to support you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante.
Bhante.
Sadhu.
Thank you, Bhante.
Okay.
Thank you, Bhante.
Sadhu Bhante.
Lord support.
Teruvan Saranai Sarana.
Thank you.
Bhante.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu.